Hi everyone, it's Keira and welcome back to my channel and welcome to today's video. So we know that back in 2018, Daniel Ricciardo made the shock decision to leave the Red Bull team and to go and explore other ventures. Now we know that obviously there are rumours that maybe he had the pressure of Max Verstappen, or he kind of saw that he was never going to be the #1 driver in the team, so he made the decision to leave and head over to Renault. But the question on a lot of people's lips actually, and something that still kind of dwells today, especially as we know he's moving to McLaren for 2021, is why did he not choose McLaren back then? Obviously he had this decision as to where to go. We knew that places like Mercedes and places like Ferrari kind of weren't on the cards, so why was it that he chose Renault over McLaren for the 2019 and 2020 season? So that's exactly what today's video is. I'm going to be talking you through all the points as to why Daniel Ricciardo actually chose Renault over McLaren and whether or not it was a good decision, because he's ended up at McLaren anyway. So before I get into the video, if you do enjoy it, please give it a big thumbs up and do not forget to subscribe to my channel down below. But let's just get started. Okay, so if we look at the situation in 2018 and looking at how the teams were then, Renault were very strong. They were comfortably P4 in the championship and they were always up there fighting with the top 3 teams. And we actually thought that going into 2019, Renault would be up there with Red Bull, because this was at the time Red Bull were P3. We really thought that there was going to be this massive fight between Red Bull and Renault, and this was actually displayed quite a bit in the Drive to Survive season 1, that we were going to have this massive fight. I believe that Renault were probably going to beat Red Bull. Like, that's how much they were on this path of success. Renault were publicly saying how they are fully into Formula 1 and how they are going to be on this long run. You know, Cyril would always come out and say, we are on this path to becoming the best in Formula 1. We are putting so much money and so much power into this. We are going to be the best. So publicly, this was a known thing that Renault were actually going to step up and that they were going to be the next big thing. Like, this is what everyone was thinking. And this was also something that they were communicating to Daniel as well. Like, when he was doing his talks of which team he's going to go to, this is what they were saying to Daniel. We're on this path. You will come with us. We will succeed together. They finished the season in 2018 with 122 points compared to McLaren's struggling 62 points, which was predominantly made up of Fernando Alonso. I think Stoffel got like 8 of those points or something. And again, McLaren were publicly saying they did not know how their 2019 and 2020 were going to go. They did not know how their seasons were going to go in the next couple of years. They didn't know if they were going to keep going down. Obviously, they were changing their driver lineup. They were 100% going to have Lando Norris in the team, but they just didn't know how things were going to go. Because I think if you look at the picture and you see Fernando Alonso, 2-time world champion, struggling in this McLaren, how is anybody else like Stoffel Van Dorn and like Daniel Ricciardo coming in? How are they going to do it? Like, how are they going to do this when even a 2-time champion cannot do it? They cannot deal with this car. And obviously McLaren coming out and basically saying, we don't know what we're going to be doing. Like, we don't know if we're going to be further back. We've got some upgrades, but are they going to work? We don't know. The uncertainty, I can clearly see why Daniel Ricciardo, you know, looking at that situation back then, Renault were going to be the next big thing. I can see why he was like, McLaren are struggling. They don't know if they're going to be on the up. Renault have promised me they're going to be on the up. They're looking good. I will go there. Now, it is rumoured that Daniel actually received 25 million from Renault for the 2019 season, which obviously, again, is a big incentive. As much as these drivers want to drive and they want to pick the best team, when you've got a money incentive like that, you're definitely going to pick that team. Renault put so much money into their driver. We actually remember that Christian Horner said that in DTS, didn't he? He was like, you spent all your money on your driver, you have got no more money for your engines. Like, that's literally how it went. They spent, I don't think I've ever seen anybody, apart from a world champion, like I've never seen not a world champion basically, get a salary of 25 million. Like, that's a lot of money for Renault to put into Daniel Ricciardo. And McLaren could not afford this. Like, McLaren could never afford Daniel Ricciardo for this price, especially when you've got other drivers, take Carlos Sainz, which were pretty much just as good as Daniel Ricciardo and would not need a fee like that. And then the money that they were going to put in the driver fee, they could put into making this car better, because the McLaren was a dog back then. We know this. So I really can see at that time why Daniel did choose to go to Renault. But obviously we know that in 2019 we had a bit of a shake-up. We had a bit of a switch up. McLaren came out of nowhere again. We actually just saw them coming out fighting. Obviously their new driver lineup in Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris completely switched. The car was amazing. And Renault weren't struggling in they were struggling. No, they weren't. They were struggling in 2019. They came out of the blocks a lot worse than we thought, and the engine, like the amount of times I saw Daniel Ricciardo and Nico Hülkenberg pull over was a joke. Like, they just kept having issues, and Renault didn't know why as well. You know, they thought they were on this up and the car wasn't going well, and just to see a switch over the winter break of this, it's so bad. And I don't know whether Daniel would have looked at this and thought, have I made this wrong decision? Should I still be with this team? is this something where I want to be? Have I now messed up getting my seat in McLaren? Because we didn't realise that Carlos Sainz was going to ever go to Ferrari. When I looked at the McLaren lineup in 2019, it looked quite secure for a good couple of years. Daniel might be looking at that in the same situation thinking, hang on a minute, am I now stuck at Renault? And then obviously for 2020, the Renault really didn't get any better. The McLaren was very easily a lot better than the Renault. I know they were fighting for a similar position in the championship, but I think McLaren ended up P3 and Renault were back down in P5. They just didn't have that fire and they didn't have that fight that McLaren had. And obviously Daniel then made the decision back in the summer of 2020 to make that switch over to McLaren for 2021. But obviously the argument is, should Daniel, and would he have felt better if he had just made that decision right at the start? Like if he would have developed with McLaren all the way up to where they are now, like how Lando Norris has done, would that have boded better for him? Because now he's got to step into this car where everybody is quite secure, everybody knows what they're doing, they've built this car up from dog to actually a really good competitive car. With Daniel coming in later, is it going to be a disadvantage to him? Is Lando Norris going to completely dominate him, or is Daniel going to be able to come up to speed? Because the Renault and the McLaren are two very different cars. You've got a different power unit, you've got a whole different chassis. I know it's just the same as, swapping teams or whatever, but we knew the Renault wasn't as comfortable for Daniel Ricciardo as the Red Bull was. We knew that he could send so late in that Red Bull. However, in the Renault, he never quite got that fire. So it'll be really interesting to see whether Daniel Ricciardo can pick up that fire again that he did in the Red Bull with this Mercedes McLaren or not, because I don't know if it's going to happen, but if it does, we just know then that it's a fit. But has he lost his touch over the past 2 years at Renault when he's been so used to this car that he isn't on edge, but it isn't quite how the Red Bull was for him? He wasn't able to brake as late. He wasn't able to do the moves that he'd done in that Red Bull in the Renault. Is he going to be able to pick up his characteristics if this McLaren is able for him to do that? It's a lot of questions. It's a lot of questions. I hope that we don't have another Uno where then Alpine end up doing a lot better than McLaren and McLaren dip again, because Daniel Ricciardo is just in the wrong place at the wrong time. But I do believe that Daniel Ricciardo is World Championship material, and I believe that he is a very strong driver. I think McLaren have a great lineup this year, but if you look back, should Daniel have taken that McLaren seat back when he could have done? The money thing, I think, is the biggest thing. Like, I think when you look at the money that Renault were going to pay him, they really wanted him. And it was a surprise for Renault to see that Daniel stepped away. And Cyril was quite, when you saw the press release come out that Daniel was no longer a part of Renault, it was sour. Like, it was sour, and it shouldn't have been that way. Especially when you see how the difference between Carlos leaving and then Daniel leaving was. It was very different. But I get why he's done it. The money incentive was there, and at the time, Renault were on this up. But in hindsight, he probably should have gone for the McLaren back then, and he probably should have kind of seen that through, because he would have been really embedded into that team, and then by now he really would have been fighting up at the top. So there we have it. That is it for today's video, and that was a little bit more of an insight as to why Daniel Ricciardo actually chose Alpine or Renault back then over McLaren. Do you think it was a good decision or not? Obviously it's very easy for us to speak in hindsight, but in your personal opinion, do you believe that Daniel Ricciardo should have stepped into that McLaren back when he could have done, or do you think that it was good for him to kind of have that stint at Renault and also bag that money? So thanks again for watching this video. Please give it a like and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you again soon. Goodbye.